What if I told you that the most powerful tool for success isn't louder than a whisper? It's silence. The secret weapon wielded by the most influential leaders and visionaries throughout history. Why? Because true power is felt, not heard. When you learn to master silence, you command attention, control the room, and create an aura of authority that demands respect. But how do you turn silence into strength? How do you use it to win in every room you enter? In just a few moments, you'll discover how mastering silence can transform your influence, control, and command over any situation. The power of silent reflection. Have you ever noticed how the most successful people often seem the calmest? They step back from noise and chaos, while others rush around. They find time to be quiet and think. This isn't by accident. It's their secret weapon. Silence gives your mind space to work. When you're always talking, always busy, always surrounded by noise, your best ideas stay hidden. But in quiet moments, your mind connects dots you didn't see before. The solution to that problem that's been bothering you for weeks suddenly appears when you give yourself quiet time. Consider what happened to Senator Marcus Townsend in 1962. Facing a difficult election campaign, he was falling behind in polls. Instead of more speeches and appearances, he retreated to his cabin for a weekend alone. Everyone thought he had given up, but in that silence, he found clarity about what voters truly needed. When he returned, his message had completely changed. It wasn't flashier, it was more authentic. People felt the difference, and his campaign took a dramatic turn. He later said those 2 quiet days changed everything. Are you giving your mind the quiet it needs to work for you? What problems might solve themselves if you gave them space in silence? What brilliant ideas might be waiting for you in those quiet moments? Remember, noise keeps you reactive, but silence makes you creative. Most people run from silence because it feels uncomfortable at first, but this discomfort is just your mind adjusting to a new power. Will you have the courage to be quiet when everyone else is making noise? Learning from everyone. The wisest person in the room often isn't the one talking, it's the one watching and listening. Look around at truly successful people. They ask questions, they observe, they learn from everyone around them before making decisions. Why does silent observation work so well? Because information is everywhere if you're quiet enough to notice it. Every person carries lessons from their experiences. Every situation contains clues about what works and what doesn't. When you're busy talking or thinking about what to say next, you miss these priceless lessons that are happening right in front of you. You can master this skill with practice. Next time you're in a meeting, challenge yourself to speak half as much as usual. Focus instead on watching how others communicate. What makes some people persuasive? What causes others to be ignored? In social settings, notice who draws people in and who pushes them away. Don't just hear words, see expressions. Notice timing. Feel the energy in the room change. These observations become your private education. Eleanor Whitfield built a small shop into a retail empire by using this exact approach. Unlike her competitors who talked over customers about what they should want, she watched how people moved through stores. She noticed where they paused, what they touched, what made them put things back. She rarely spoke in strategy meetings, but when she did, her insights were so accurate, others wondered how she knew. "I just pay attention," she would say. Her silent observations led to store layouts that doubled sales, while her talkative competitors went bankrupt. When was the last time you learned something valuable just by watching? Could your next breakthrough come not from a book or course, but from simply paying closer attention to what's already around you? The next time you feel pressure to speak up, to prove your worth, remember, the real power might be in remaining silent and observing what others miss. Will you choose to be the loudest voice or the most insightful mind? Mastering emotional control. The mark of true power isn't how strongly you react, but how calmly you respond. Notice how the most respected leaders pause before speaking when tensions rise. That silence is not weakness, It's their greatest strength. Emotional reactions happen in an instant and often lead to regret. When someone criticizes your idea, questions your ability, or challenges your authority, your first reaction comes from emotion, not wisdom. This quick response might feel good for a moment, but can damage relationships and reputations for years. The silence between trigger and response is where your true power lies. Developing this skill starts with recognizing emotional triggers. Pay attention to physical signs. Faster heartbeat, tense muscles, rising heat. These are warnings. When you notice them, take a deliberate pause. Breathe deeply. Count to 5 if needed. Ask yourself, what result do I want from this situation? Let that answer, not your emotion, guide your response. Practice this pause in small situations so it becomes natural in important ones. When was the last time anger or frustration made you speak words you later wished you could take back? What might change if you own the space between events and your response to them? Remember, anyone can have an emotional reaction. It takes real strength to respond with purposeful silence. Next time tension rises, will you show your power through immediate words or through the silence that shows you cannot be provoked? The art of strategic patience. The biggest dreams often grow best in silence. Look at any truly remarkable achievement and you'll find that much of the work happened quietly, before the world ever knew about it. Too many great ideas die from early exposure. When you share goals too soon, several things happen. Critics attack while your idea is still fragile. Others may steal your vision before you can develop it. And strangely, talking about your plans actually reduces your motivation to complete them. Your brain gets a small reward from sharing, making you less likely to do the hard work. The most successful people understand this trap and work in silence until the results can speak for themselves. Apply strategic silence by dividing your goals into stages. In the foundation stage, share your plans only with those directly involved in helping you. Build proof that your idea works before announcing it widely. Document your progress privately. Create something small that demonstrates your concept. Only after you have something solid, not just an idea, but a working start, should you consider widening your circle. Let curiosity about what you're doing build naturally. Margaret Finley spent 2 years developing her revolutionary retail system while still working her regular job. When colleagues asked about her evenings, she simply said she was working on a home project. Even family received vague answers. While competitors loudly announced similar ideas and then faced public failure, she refined her system in silence. By the time she revealed her company, it wasn't just an idea. She had 3 paying clients and proven results. When asked why she kept quiet for so long, she said, "Seeds don't grow well when constantly dug up to check their progress." What dream are you carrying that might benefit from less talking and more quiet action? Have you experienced the strange phenomenon of feeling less motivated after sharing your plans? Consider this: the energy you spend talking about what you'll do is energy not spent doing it. The next time you feel the urge to announce your big plans, ask yourself, would this idea grow stronger in silence for a while longer? Would you work harder if the only voice cheering you on was your own? Intuition as your guide, that quiet feeling that nudges you toward or away from certain decisions. Successful people don't ignore it, they listen carefully. This inner voice speaks in whispers, not shouts, and can only be heard in moments of silence. In our noisy world of constant opinions and endless advice, we've lost touch with our own inner wisdom. Yet research shows our brains process far more information than we consciously realize. That gut feeling isn't just emotion, it's your mind connecting dots below your awareness. When you ignore this quiet guidance, you often end up saying, "I knew I should have." The most successful decisions come when external knowledge and inner wisdom work together. Reconnecting with your intuition requires creating spaces of silence. During important decisions, take a walk alone without distractions. Before meetings, sit quietly for 5 minutes rather than filling the time with more preparation. When considering options, ask yourself, what feels right? Before asking, what makes logical sense? Notice the difference between fear and intuitive caution. Takeo Yamada built his reputation on seemingly impossible market predictions. He sold all holdings just weeks before a major crash. Competitors studied the same data, but reached opposite conclusions. When financial reporters pressed him for his analysis method, he confused them by describing his daily 3-hour garden walks. In noise, I can only hear what others are saying. In silence, I can hear what the situation is saying, he explained. His company survived 3 market collapses that destroyed many others. His unusual practice of silent reflection before major decisions became legendary. When did you last experience that quiet knowing that proved correct, even when facts suggested otherwise? What decisions are you facing now that might benefit from less research and more quiet reflection? But this voice will not compete with noise. It waits patiently in silence. Will you create the quiet space it needs to be heard? Speaking less to be heard more. Have you noticed how people strain to hear someone who speaks softly? The person who talks constantly gets tuned out. But when the quiet person finally speaks, everyone leans in to listen. This isn't coincidence. It's the power of selective silence. Speaking less makes your words worth more. Most people feel uncomfortable with silence and rush to fill every gap with words. They repeat themselves, weaken their points with too many examples, and dilute important messages with unnecessary details. When you speak constantly, people hear only noise. But when you speak only when necessary, with purpose and precision, your words carry weight. Silence creates value for your thought. To build this silent confidence, start counting your words in conversations. Challenge yourself to express the same idea using fewer sentences. Before speaking, ask, does this need to be said? Does it need to be said by me? Does it need to be said right now? Practice being comfortable in silence during conversations. Don't jump to fill pauses. When asked a question, take a moment before answering. Quality thinking produces quality speaking. Thomas Blackwell transformed his company. During his first board meeting, directors were shocked when he sat silently through 2 hours of discussion about declining profits. When finally asked his opinion, he spoke just 3 sentences that completely reframed their problem. Later, when asked why he waited so long, he explained, I needed to understand the full picture before offering a solution. Speaking sooner would have just added to the confusion. Within months, his reputation for thoughtful silence made his rare statements company policy almost immediately. His peers who spoke constantly at every meeting found their opinions carried less weight. Are you weakening your influence by speaking too often? What would happen if you cut your words in half but doubled your thinking time? Remember that silence shows confidence in your ideas. They don't need constant defending or explaining. Most people speak to feel important or to release nervous energy. But what if your silence, not your speech, is what will ultimately make others value your contribution? The next time you feel pressured to speak up immediately, will you have the confidence to remain silent until you have something truly worth saying? Working without announcement. Look around at the people constantly talking about their goals, plans, and dreams. Now look at those quietly making progress every day. Which group achieves more? The answer reveals a powerful truth about success. Attention and achievement often move in opposite directions. When you seek attention for your efforts before completing them, you create 3 problems. First, you spend energy on appearances that should go toward progress. Second, you invite judgment and criticism prematurely. Third, and most dangerous, you give yourself a false sense of accomplishment just from the recognition of starting. The brain receives social rewards from talking about goals that can actually reduce your motivation to achieve them. True achievers understand this trap and focus on progress, not publicity. Practice silent achievement by keeping a private progress journal instead of posting updates. Set specific completion points before sharing your journey. Find one accountability partner rather than announcing goals to everyone. When asked what you're working on, learn the art of the interesting but vague answer that satisfies curiosity without revealing details. Channel the desire for recognition into more productive work, knowing that real results will eventually bring more meaningful attention than any announcement. Rebecca Chen stunned the sports world, setting a new record when nobody even knew she was competing at that level. While other runners documented every training session publicly, she worked with a single coach in complete privacy. Her competitors posted daily about their progress, received constant feedback, and became minor celebrities before the race. This created a satisfaction that made the painful parts of training seem less necessary. When asked about her silent approach, she said simply, "Applause feels better when you've earned it through results, not intentions." What goal are you currently talking about more than working toward? How might your progress change if you channel that energy into silent action? Consider this. Attention for what you're going to do feels good temporarily, but attention for what you've already accomplished builds lasting confidence. The world is full of people announcing journeys they never complete. Will you choose to be someone who talks about achievement or someone who silently creates it? Finding power in difficulty. When facing hardship, listen to how most people respond. Complaints, explanations, excuses. Now watch the truly successful. They often meet difficulty with striking silence, not because they have nothing to say, but because they're saving their energy for solutions. Talking about problems multiplies their power over you. Every time you explain why something is difficult, why you can't move forward, or why you're justified in feeling frustrated, you strengthen the problem's grip on your mind. You convince yourself of limitations. You focus on obstacles instead of opportunities. Silence during difficulty isn't denial, it's strategic focus. It contains your energy and directs it towards solutions rather than explanations. Build this silent strength by creating a complaint-free zone around yourself. When facing challenges, give yourself a short private time to acknowledge frustration, then close that door. Establish a personal rule. If you must speak about a problem, you must also propose a solution. Practice responding to difficulty with questions rather than statements. What can I learn here? Instead of, why is this happening to me? When others invite you to join their complaints, politely redirect the conversation to potential actions. Samuel Crawford demonstrated this principle dramatically when a catastrophic tunnel collapse trapped his team underground. While others panicked and blamed faulty equipment, Crawford remained noticeably silent. Instead of discussing what went wrong, he began methodically testing escape routes. When asked about the cause, he simply said, "That conversation helps no one right now." His focus created a sense of calm that spread through the group. After their successful escape, he explained, "Words of worry waste breath, and underground breath is precious." The same principle applies in any crisis. When you last faced a significant setback, how much energy did you spend explaining it rather than overcoming it? What current challenge might benefit from less discussion and more silent action? Remember that talking about problems often makes you feel temporarily better without actually improving your situation. Most people use words as an escape from difficulty. The successful use silence as a path through it. Next time trouble arrives, will you add your voice to the chorus of complaint, or will you find your strength in strategic silence? Learning without defensiveness. Think about your reaction when someone points out a mistake or suggests improvement. Most people immediately defend, explain, or counter-criticize. But watch those who grow the fastest. They often respond first with silence, listening fully before speaking. Defensive reactions block your most important growth opportunities. When your first response to feedback is justification, you miss the valuable information hidden within criticism. Your mind becomes busy defending your current position rather than considering how to improve it. Even when feedback is partly wrong, it almost always contains some useful truth. Silent receptivity doesn't mean you agree with everything, it means you're strong enough to consider anything. And Victoria Ellis transformed her career with this approach. After losing an important match, reporters watched as her coach delivered harsh criticism about her technique. Rather than the expected defensive response, Ellis remained completely silent, nodding occasionally while taking notes. Other players typically argued or explained away similar feedback. 3 months later, Ellis returned with subtle but significant changes to her playing style. When she won the championship, she credited that difficult conversation. "If I had been busy defending my old approach, I never would have fully understood the new one." Silence gave me room to grow. When was the last time you received criticism and your first reaction was to explain or defend? What improvements might you discover if you approached feedback with curious silence rather than immediate justification? Consider that defensiveness feels good in the moment, but prevents growth in the long run. Most people defend their current position fiercely. The successful defend their future potential instead. The next time someone offers you difficult feedback, will you choose the temporary comfort of defense or the lasting benefit of silent growth? Choosing your own path. Notice how quickly people offer their opinions about what you should do with your life, your career, your relationships. Everyone has advice, but the most successful people make their biggest decisions in a space of protective silence.